I was arranging dried lavender in a vintage mason jar when I heard the garage door rumble open. My hands froze mid-motion. Ryan wasn't supposed to be home for another 3 hours, and he certainly wasn't supposed to bring anyone with him. But through the kitchen window, I could see not just his SUV, but his mother's silver Lexus pulling in right behind him. And there was a U-Haul trailer hitched to the back of it. I set down the lavender carefully, my mind already racing through possibilities, none of them good. We'd been together for 2 years, and in that time, I'd learned that Barbara showing up unannounced was never just a friendly visit. But a U-Haul? That was new. The side door from the garage burst open before I could even move from the kitchen. Ryan came in first, looking sheepish, followed by Barbara in her usual pearl necklace and that tight smile she reserved for me. Behind them came Jessica, Ryan's 26-year-old sister, and a man I'd never seen before, both of them carrying cardboard boxes. "Surprise!" Barbara announced, her voice dripping with that false cheerfulness I'd come to recognize. "We're here to help Jessica get settled." I stood there, still holding the mason jar, trying to process what I was seeing. Settled? What do you mean, settled? Ryan wouldn't meet my eyes. He busied himself with holding the door open as Jessica and the stranger carried more boxes through my kitchen, tracking dirt across the floor I'd spent all morning mopping in preparation for tomorrow's Thanksgiving dinner. "Well, Emma," Barbara said, setting her designer handbag on my granite countertop like she owned the place. "Jessica lost her apartment last week. Awful landlord, raised the rent with no warning. So naturally, I told her she could stay here for a few months until she gets back on her feet." The mason jar nearly slipped from my fingers. "You told her what?" "Oh, don't be dramatic." Barbara waved her hand dismissively. "You have 3 bedrooms. Surely you can spare one for family." I looked at Ryan, waiting for him to say something, anything, to indicate that he understood how insane this was, but he was staring at his shoes like they were the most fascinating thing he'd ever seen. "Ryan," I said carefully, "did you know about this?" He finally looked up, and I saw guilt written all over his face. "Mom called me this morning. I was going to tell you. But we figured it would be easier to just come over and start moving things in," Barbara interrupted. "No point in making a big deal out of it. Mark, honey, be careful with that box. That's Jessica's good china." Mark. So that was the stranger's name. Jessica's boyfriend, apparently, who was also moving into my house. My house that I'd saved for 6 years to buy. My house that I'd spent every weekend for the past 4 months renovating, painting, and decorating exactly the way I wanted it. "This is insane," I said, my voice coming out sharper than I intended. "You can't just move people into my house without asking me." "Our house," Ryan corrected quietly. "I live here too." Something cold settled in my chest. "You've been here for 8 months, Ryan. I've owned this place for 3 years, and regardless, that doesn't give your mother the right to make decisions about who lives here." "Emma, I really don't appreciate your tone." Barbara stepped closer to me, and I caught a whiff of her expensive perfume. "Family helps family. That's how we were raised. Maybe if you had siblings, you'd understand." The mason jar was definitely going to break if I held it any tighter. I set it down on the counter, very deliberately, before I said something I'd regret. "Where exactly were you planning on putting them?" I asked. Barbara's smile widened. "Well, that's the thing. The master bedroom is really quite large, isn't it? Much too big for just the 2 of you. Jessica and Mark can take that room, and you and Ryan can move into the guest room. It's still a perfectly nice size." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "You want me to give up my bedroom? In my own house?" "Our house," Ryan said again, and this time there was an edge to his voice. "And honestly, Em, Mom has a point. That room is huge. We barely use half the space." "We barely use half the space because I haven't finished furnishing it yet," I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. "I just bought that bed frame 6 weeks ago. I've been planning the layout for months." "Oh, Emma, it's just a room." Barbara patted my arm in that condescending way she had. "And Jessica really needs this right now. She's been through so much with that awful landlord." Through the doorway, I could see Jessica directing Mark where to put boxes in my living room that I'd spent 3 weekends painting in a custom shade of sage green. My living room, where I'd carefully arranged every piece of furniture, every throw pillow, every picture frame. Jessica was moving my coffee table. What is she doing? I started toward the living room, but Barbara caught my arm. She's just making room for her things, dear. That sofa arrangement wasn't very functional anyway. Too much wasted space in the corner. I pulled my arm free and walked into the living room. Jessica had pushed my coffee table against the wall and was now eyeing my bookshelf with a critical expression. "Jessica, please don't move anything else," I said, trying to keep my voice level. She looked up, surprised. "Oh, hey, Emma. Sorry, I didn't want to bother you while you were talking to Mom. But yeah, we're going to need to rearrange a bit. Mark and I have a lot of stuff, and this layout isn't really working for us." "This layout works perfectly fine for me," I said. "This is my house." "Well, it's going to be our house too now, so we need to compromise, right?" She smiled at me like this was all perfectly reasonable. Like she hadn't just walked into my home uninvited and started rearranging my furniture. Behind me, I heard Barbara in the kitchen, her voice carrying clearly. "Ryan, be a dear and start bringing in the boxes from the car. Oh, and we'll need to clear out some of the cabinets. Jessica has her own dishes and cookware." I turned around. Barbara had opened my kitchen cabinets and was examining my dishes with a critical eye. "These are from Target, aren't they?" she said, wrinkling her nose. "Jessica's set is proper china. We'll box these up and put them in storage." "Don't touch my dishes," I said, walking back into the kitchen. "Don't touch anything. Nobody is boxing up anything, because nobody is moving in." The room went very quiet. Ryan had frozen halfway through the door with a box in his arms. Jessica and Mark had stopped in the living room, watching. Barbara turned to face me fully, and the fake smile was gone. "Emma, I think you need to calm down and think about what you're saying." "I'm completely calm," I said, even though my hands were shaking. "And I'm saying that this is not happening. You don't get to decide who lives in my house." "Ryan," Barbara said, not taking her eyes off me. "Talk to your girlfriend." Ryan set down the box and ran a hand through his hair. "Em, come on, it's just for a few months. Jessica really needs help right now. Then she can move in with your mother. Barbara has that huge house in Riverside with 4 bedrooms. My house is not set up for guests right now," Barbara said quickly. "I'm having the floors redone, and the spare rooms are full of furniture." "How convenient," I said. "I don't appreciate your sarcasm, young lady, and I don't appreciate you trying to take over my house." Barbara's expression hardened. "This is what I'm talking about, Ryan. This selfishness, this inability to put family first." She turned to him. "Is this really the kind of woman you want to build a life with? Someone who won't help your sister in her time of need?" I watched Ryan's face, waiting for him to defend me, waiting for him to tell his mother that she was out of line, that this was inappropriate, that you can't just move people into someone else's home without asking. Instead, he looked at me with something like disappointment. "Emma, family comes first. I thought you understood that." Something inside me cracked. "Family comes first?" "Ryan, I've spent 2 years watching you put your mother's opinions ahead of mine. She hated my job, so you started making comments about how much I work. She didn't like my friends, so we stopped seeing them. She thinks living together before marriage is wrong, but she allows it because at least she can keep tabs on us this way. And now she wants to move your sister into my bedroom, and you think I'm the problem? That's not fair," Ryan said quietly. "Your place is nicer anyway," Jessica chimed in from the living room. "And you're barely ever here with your work schedule. It makes more sense for us to have the master." I turned to stare at her. "Are you serious right now?" She shrugged. "I'm just being practical." "Practical," I repeated. "Practical would be getting a job. Practical would be not losing your apartment in the first place. Practical would be—" "That's enough," Barbara snapped. "Jessica lost her job through no fault of her own, and she doesn't need to be attacked by someone who's supposed to be family." "I'm not family," I said. "We're not even engaged." The words hung in the air. Ryan's face went pale. I hadn't meant to say it like that, but it was true. We'd talked about marriage, sure, but he'd never actually proposed. And now I was starting to understand why. "Well," Barbara said coldly, "if you can't handle being part of this family, then maybe you're not the right fit for my son." Mom, Ryan started, but she held up a hand. No, Ryan, let her speak. Let's hear what Emma really thinks about us. All three of them were staring at me now. Ryan with his puppy dog eyes, silently pleading with me to just go along with it. Barbara with barely concealed contempt. Jessica with entitlement written all over her face. And Mark, who had the decency to look uncomfortable, hovering in the doorway like he wanted to be anywhere else. I thought about giving in. I thought about how easy it would be to just say yes, to let them move in, to give up my bedroom and my living room and my carefully curated space, to let Barbara win this battle like she'd won so many others over the past 2 years. I thought about 3 months from now, 6 months, a year, with Jessica's things scattered across my house and Barbara dropping by whenever she pleased to check on her daughter. With Ryan always taking their side, always asking me to compromise, always making me feel selfish for wanting boundaries. I thought about the rest of my life, and I realized I could see it so clearly. Every holiday with Barbara criticizing my cooking, every family decision made without my input, every time I wanted to say no, being made to feel like a terrible person. And I was 59 years old, too old to waste any more time on this. You're right, I said finally. I can't handle being part of this family. Barbara's eyebrows shot up. She hadn't expected that. I beg your pardon? You heard me. I turned to Ryan. I can't do this anymore. I can't be with someone who lets his mother run his life, who won't stand up for me, who thinks it's okay for people to walk into my house and start moving in without so much as a phone call. Emma, don't be ridiculous, Ryan said, his voice taking on a pleading tone. You're just upset. Let's talk about this. We are talking about this. And what I'm saying is that you all need to leave, now. Now wait just a minute, Barbara started. No. I held up my hand. This is my house. My name is on the deed, mine alone, and I'm telling you to leave. Emma, please, Ryan said. Don't do this. We can figure this out. How? I asked. How are we going to figure this out, Ryan? Are you going to tell your mother no? Are you going to stand up to her? Because in 2 years, you've never done it once. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. We both knew the truth. You're being incredibly selfish, Barbara said, her voice ice cold. All Jessica needs is a place to stay for a few months. Then she can stay with you. Or with Mark's family. Or she can figure out her own living situation like the adult she's supposed to be. But she's not staying here. Ryan, are you going to let her talk to me like this? Barbara demanded. Ryan looked between us, his face anguished. Emma, you're putting me in an impossible position. No, I said. You put yourself there the moment you let your mother make decisions about my house, about our relationship, about my life. I think you need to take a moment and really consider what you're throwing away here, Barbara said. Ryan is a catch. You're not getting any younger, Emma. How many more chances do you think you're going to get? There it was. The thing she'd been dancing around for 2 years. The subtle jabs about my age, my independence, my career focus. The implication that I should be grateful that her precious son was even interested in me. You know what? You're absolutely right, I said. I'm not getting any younger, which means I don't have time to waste on a relationship where I'm not respected. I walked past them to the front door and opened it wide. Get out, all of you. Take your boxes and your U-Haul and get out of my house. You can't be serious, Jessica said. I've never been more serious in my life. Emma Ryan started toward me. Don't, I said sharply. I'm done, Ryan. I'm done compromising. I'm done being told I'm selfish for wanting basic respect. I'm done watching you choose your mother over me every single time. We're done. His face crumpled. You don't mean that. I do. Now please leave. Where am I supposed to go? He asked, and he sounded so lost that for a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. You've been here 8 months. Your name isn't on the lease. You can go to your mother's house. Or get your own place. But you can't stay here. This is ridiculous, Barbara hissed. Ryan, don't let her do this to you. You have rights. Actually, he doesn't, I said. Like I said, my name is on the deed, and you're all trespassing. Mark grabbed Jessica's arm. Come on, babe. Let's just go. But our stuff, Jessica started, is going right back in that U-Haul. I finished. You have 10 minutes to get everything out, and then I'm calling the police. You wouldn't dare, Barbara said. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. Try me. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Mark started picking up boxes, and Jessica reluctantly followed suit. Barbara stood rigid in my kitchen, staring at me like she could will me into submission through sheer force of personality. Ryan, she said finally, get your things. You're coming home with me. Mom. Now. Ryan. He looked at me one last time, his eyes pleading. Emma, please. Let's just talk about this tomorrow when everyone's calmed down. There's nothing to talk about, I said. I'm not changing my mind. I thought you loved me, he said quietly. I did, I said, but I love myself more. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Then he turned and walked upstairs to the bedroom. Our bedroom. The bedroom I'd apparently been expected to give up. It took them 30 minutes to pack up Ryan's things and remove all of Jessica's boxes from my living room. Barbara didn't say another word to me, but her expression spoke volumes. I'd made an enemy today, and she wasn't the type to forgive or forget. I didn't care. When Ryan came downstairs with his suitcases, he paused at the door. I'm going to call you tomorrow. Don't, I said. I'll pack up anything you've forgotten and have it delivered to your mother's house. Emma, this is crazy. We can work this out. No, we can't. Because nothing has changed, Ryan. Your mother still thinks she can run your life, and you're still going to let her, and I'm not going to be collateral damage anymore. He opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to think better of it. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was waiting this long. After they left, I locked the door and leaned against it, my whole body shaking. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, the sound of traffic outside, my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I slid down to sit on the floor, my back against the door, and waited for the tears to come. They didn't. Instead, I felt something else. Something that took me a moment to identify. Relief. I pulled out my phone and made a call. 20 minutes later, a locksmith showed up. An hour after that, I had new locks on all the doors. Ryan's key wouldn't work anymore. Barbara couldn't let herself in. This was my house again, fully and completely. That night, I lay in my bed, my beautiful king-size bed that I'd spent weeks choosing, and stared at the ceiling. My phone buzzed constantly. Ryan calling. Barbara calling. Even Jessica texted me, somehow having gotten my number, telling me I was ruining her life. I blocked all of them. Around midnight, Ryan's father called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Emma, David said, his voice tired. I heard what happened today. I'm sure you heard Barbara's version, I said. I did, and I'm calling to apologize. That surprised me. What? I told Barbara this was wrong. I told her you can't just move people into someone's house without asking, but she doesn't listen to me anymore, then Ryan listens to you. He sighed. I'm sorry she put you in that position. And I'm sorry my son doesn't have the spine to stand up to her. I didn't know what to say. For what it's worth, David continued, I think you did the right thing. Barbara would have made your life miserable. She's making mine miserable. And I've been married to her for 35 years. Why do you stay? I asked. He was quiet for a moment. Fear, I suppose. Fear of being alone. Fear of change. Fear of admitting I wasted all these years. He paused. Don't make my mistake, Emma. Don't waste your life trying to please someone who's never going to be pleased. After we hung up, I cried a little. Not for Ryan, but for David. For the years he'd lost. For the life he could have had. And I made a promise to myself that I would never end up like that. The next day was Thanksgiving. I'd planned to host a big dinner, my first real Thanksgiving in my new house. I'd bought a 20-pound turkey, made a shopping list for all the sides, even splurged on real linen napkins. Instead, I called 3 of my closest friends and invited them over for pizza and wine. We sat on the floor of my living room, eating pepperoni straight from the box and laughing about terrible exes and close calls. You dodged a bullet, my friend, Marie said, raising her glass. To Emma, for knowing her worth. To Emma, the others chorused. And we drank to that. Over the next few weeks, Barbara tried to launch a campaign against me. She told anyone who would listen that I was heartless, materialistic, and cruel, that I'd thrown her son out over nothing, that I'd refused to help poor Jessica in her time of need. Some people believed her. I lost a couple of acquaintances who decided I was the villain in this story. I didn't care. The people who mattered knew the truth, and the people who didn't matter could think whatever they wanted. Ryan kept trying to contact me through mutual friends. He wanted to talk. He wanted to explain. He wanted another chance. I didn't give him one. 6 months later, I heard through the grapevine that he was engaged. To a 28-year-old elementary school teacher who apparently thinks Barbara hung the moon. I felt a little sorry for her, but mostly I felt grateful that it wasn't me. Jessica, for the record, moved into Barbara's house after all. Turns out the floor renovation was finished, and there was plenty of room. Who could have guessed? As for me, I finished decorating my house exactly the way I wanted it. I painted the accent wall in my bedroom a deep navy blue. I bought the vintage chandelier I'd been eyeing for the dining room. I turned the guest room into a home office with built-in bookshelves and a reading nook. My house became my sanctuary, the place where I could breathe, the place where nobody criticized my choices or moved my furniture or told me I was selfish for having boundaries. One evening, about 8 months after that disastrous day, I was sitting on my back porch with a glass of wine, watching the sunset. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something made me answer it. "Emma? It's David, Ryan's father." "Oh. Hi, David. I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from Ryan's phone." He paused. "I left her. Barbara. I filed for divorce last week." I sat up straighter. "Really? Really? I'm 62 years old, and I finally grew a spine." He laughed, but it sounded shaky. "I'm terrified, but I'm also free, and I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" "For showing me it was possible. For showing me that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival." He cleared his throat. "So thank you, Emma, for being brave enough to walk away. It inspired me to do the same." After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, watching the sky turn from orange to pink to purple. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear kids playing, dogs barking, life happening all around me. And I realized something important. Your home isn't just 4 walls and a roof. It's not about the square footage or the decor or the perfect paint color. Your home is the space where you get to be yourself, where you don't have to compromise your values or tolerate disrespect, where you can breathe freely without someone telling you you're doing it wrong. And anyone who tries to take that from you, whether it's a controlling mother-in-law, a spineless partner, or your own fear of being alone, doesn't deserve a place in your life. I learned that lesson at 59. But it's never too late to choose yourself, never too late to protect your peace, never too late to say no to people who think your boundaries are negotiable. Because here's what I know now: the right person will never make you choose between loving them and respecting yourself. And anyone who does wasn't the right person to begin with. I finished my wine and went inside. My house was quiet and peaceful, filled with my things arranged exactly how I wanted them. The kitchen counter was clear except for that mason jar of lavender I'd been arranging when everything fell apart. It was still beautiful, still perfect. And so was my life.